Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here from the Rosa String Works Man Cave here in the house. And beings that we're coming to you live from the old original log cabin, I thought I'd start off like this. There are people who would rather live in mansions, people who would rather live alone, people who would trade God's promise for the glories to hold. There are people who would rather live in splendor and brag about their silver and their gold. But I'd rather have a little log cabin by the side of the road. I'd rather live by the side of the road and help souls to their blessed abode than to be a king or a millionaire and live in a mansion in bright array. I'd rather do a neighborly deed for a traveler here or a friend in need. I'd rather live by the side of the road and help some pilgrim along life's way, and help some pilgrim along life's way. Oh, wouldn't the world be a better place if we all lived according to the words of that song? Well, I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a good day because I'm seeing people scrolling up the screen, so I know we're live. But honestly, I have no clue what's going out because I have no way to hear it this morning. For some reason, the speakers will not work when we moved it up here. I don't know what changed, but it seems to be working, so I'm just going with that. I can't hear a thing. That's the truth, other than me talking. So I can't hear what's going out through the machine. I started that off here because we're in the log cabin. This old log cabin was built back in the 1930s. What actually happened here on the farm, a fellow Gerber, I think he owned a meat packing company and apparently was, pretty well off. He built a small little log cabin in the back here. We call it our carriage house now because it was built kind of like a garage with an apartment up above. And anyway, he lived in that while he built the big log cabin here. And the big log cabin for a log cabin was pretty good size actually. I don't know just exactly how big it is, but pretty darn big. I'd say it was 40 feet long. It's pretty big. Anyway, this part of the house was never restored or, since we owned it. And just about a year ago, I cut into it and cleaned it up and fixed it up so that I turned it into my man cave. And directly behind the camera here is my big screen TV. So anyway, so I thought that song was appropriate because it talked about living in a log cabin there by the side of the road. I played that on my very first guitar I ever built. This is actually, you can tell that it's not a dreadnought exactly. It's kind of a dreadnought with slumped shoulders. This was a Martin 12-string pattern, and so I had orders to build some 12 strings, and I hadn't even built a guitar at all yet at that point. So I took a week's vacation from AT&T, Southwestern Bell, whatever you want to call it at the time, because it changed names so many times, it's hard to keep track. Anyway, I took a vacation, 1 week's vacation, and I built this guitar, the whole thing, as you see it exactly, in 1 week. And that's why in the last shop talk, or the shop talk before, I mentioned I could actually build one of these in one full day. I mean, I really could. Especially when my hands were working well and at the peak of my prime here, if you will, I could have easily built one in one day. Now, that's just to get it playable. It wouldn't have any of the detail on it or, like nothing fancy. It would just be a plain box with strings pretty much. But I'm pretty sure I could do that in one day. So my point has always been that building them is the easy part. Finishing them and detailing them is what takes all the time, and especially the finish. Oh my gosh, it's just a nightmare. But I also wanted to point out that this was the Redwood guitar. This is the Redwood top. And I literally bought this at a hardware store. I just was in a hardware store, and I think it was Central Hardware back then, and found a bunch of Redwood standing up, and it was quarter sawn. I bought a couple pieces of it and glued it together and made this top. And this was the one, if you remember the story, when I was putting the finish on it, because remember, I was doing this really fast. I even had the finish on it and everything in that week. And I was painting oil varnish on it because that went on faster and everything. Well, anyway, when I turned around to put more oil on the brush, I heard it go kapow, and I turned back around, and it was already on its way back up. The hook broke. Anyway, that tragedy there caused a break along both sides of the fretboard here, and you can probably see, although our lighting today is the worst ever. I'm sorry about the lighting. But anyway, you can kind of see how it's broke along here and stuff, especially right in there. And I never did fix it. I mean, this was built back in '86, and it's held together and still pretty playable, really, even though the top is kind of sunk in because of all that. I should take it apart and fix it, and maybe one of these days I will. But the point I wanted to make about the Redwood again is if you're building your very first instrument, I really, really would like to suggest that you use Redwood for a top, especially if it's a carved instrument. If you're going to carve a mandolin or carve an arch-top guitar or carve any kind of an arch-topped instrument, I for sure would recommend you try your Redwood because it carves like butter. I mean, it's so easy to carve. It's probably the easiest wood there is on the planet to carve. This side of balsa anyway. I mean, and it's not much harder than balsa the way it feels when you're carving it. It just carves so creamy smooth. It's very easy to carve. So I would highly recommend it. And like I said, personally, I don't think I've ever heard a bad sounding Redwood topped instrument. It's just got a nice clean sound, always plenty of volume on Redwood. So anyway, I just want to, put that out there again because I really do think it's something that people overlook and they don't think about. And Redwood is really a classy instrument, really. Just got a different look because it's a darker color. The next item of business here is I wanted to say thank you to whoever sent me this. And I say to whoever because I didn't see a name anywhere. It came from Starbond CA glue. It came from their actual location according to the return address. So whoever sent me this CA glue, thank you very kindly. I really appreciate it. It's got some extra tips and things in there too. Can always use that, so thank you. And the next thing I wanted to show you, by the way, I have no script at all today, not even an outline, so I'm just winging it. The next thing I wanted to show you was the progress, and I have made significant progress now on my world's finest mandolin ever built by a human. And again, that's not arrogant, that's not bragging or anything, that's just my goal. It truly is my goal to try to make this the finest mandolin ever in the history of mandolins. And you can see there that the carving on it is a little bit different than the carving on most of them. And I'm trying to get this one where you can see the detail carving on it. The light, like I said, the lighting is the worst ever here. But you can see I've carved a little extra flare in these things. And anyway, you can see the difference. This side looks different than this side. This side here, I am not exaggerating this. You're going to think I am. I promise you I'm not. I sanded this for 3 solid hours, taking no more than a 30-second break the whole time. 3 solid hours. That's all I did was sand. This side has not been sanded. This is the hardest wood on the planet to sand. I'm just telling you straight out. This it's called quilted maple. It's a hard maple. Well, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get the. I barely have any light here. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to get it where you can see it. But the quilting on this it is just beautiful. It's going to be a gorgeous thing, but it makes it look different in color because of all the sanding on the one side. Like I said, I have not sanded this side at all, but it's going to be really pretty when it's done. I wanted to try to get this outside just as close and perfect as I could before I start carving the inside. I have not started the inside on either plate yet. These are referred to as plates, by the way, the top plate, the back plate. So anyway, I did make significant progress, and don't make your first instrument quilted maple. I'm not kidding you. I really seriously mean that. Do not make your first carved instrument quilted maple. You will hate it. You will just hate it. It's the hardest wood to scrape smooth. It's the hardest wood to carve. It's the hardest wood to sand. It's just crazy hard. But it'll be worth it in the end because it's going to be one gorgeous instrument when it's finished. Anyway, that's it should be hard if it's going to be the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human. I can't even say that without laughing. I hope you understand. I'm just having fun with that. I thought I'd just show you a couple of random things, and these are really random. This little deal here, and again, the light's going to be terrible, but maybe you can see it. I keep this as a memory of my mother in the little room here. It's, some people call it intarsia, marquetry. I call it marquetry. And I made this for my mother years ago, and after she passed away, I took it back. And anyway, she loved irises, which the old-timers, at least in Missouri, nobody ever called them an iris. They called them a flag. So she loved flags, and she loved birds. And that's would be like a goldfinch. There's what that is. And it's all just cut out of wood that I made. And let's see, here's another random piece of artwork. So I just got this stuff hanging on the walls here, so I just thought I'd just show it to you. This was done back in my early night school college days. One of my professors wanted us to make a collage, cutting out pictures out of a newspaper or magazine or whatever. And we had to paste them on a board and make it, things that were important in our life. So I went up to the professor and I just said, "Hey, would it be all right instead of doing that? Because I'm just not into that magazine cutting out picture thing. I'm just not." So I said, "Would it be okay if I painted a collage instead?" And he said, "Oh, sure, that'd be great." So this is what I painted. And again, the glare and the lights, terrible. But that little house there, that was the first house that my wife and I bought when we got married. And you can see there's a basement under it. Well, that house was actually built on stilts. In other words, there were concrete piers in the ground and it was built on a pretty steep hillside, so the front of the house was off the ground by about 6 feet. And the back of the house was sitting on the ground then. And so what I did was I actually dug out all of that ground under there, and trust me, that's a lot. And I probably did 60% of it, well, maybe 40% of it with a shovel. So I did a lot of it with a shovel. And then I just laid up concrete block and built a basement under that house. And, I had to support it with beams and things. I don't know. Anyway, I did that back in my younger days when I was like 21, something like that, 22. Then, of course, some of my other things that you can see here, which I can't see because I'll have to stand up. But then here's the banjo and the guitar, and that just kind of represented my love for the bluegrass music and my Uncle Don. And the fish up here, believe it or not, I used to be into fishing all the time as a young kid. And my best friend, Craig Kirk, who is also the one responsible for giving me the name Rosa String Works. He said, "You're into so many things with the instruments and music." He says, "Just call it Rosa String Works." and so that's where the name came from. But anyway, he and I used to fish pretty much every day that we could get away from my dad. My dad made me work all the time, but as soon as I could get 5 minutes away, we went fishing. And then you can see a bow and arrow here. This is a high-end target bow, and I used to be into archery really a lot, and I was the Missouri state champion back when I was about 16, I think it was. And then, of course, my love for deer hunting is down here. And then the horses was my dad, representing my dad. And then another thing that was very important to me was my grandfather. And every time I saw him, he gave me an old quarter. And if you look at that, that's the old style quarter with the flying eagle on the back. Now, as a dumb kid, I spent almost every one of those he gave me. Oh, terrible. I wish I had those now, because they were all, really old money. But anyway, and then of course you can see it all centers around Southwestern Bell, which is where I worked. And so this was my collage that I made. The house up there, of course, represented my family, of course. But anyway, just thought you might like to see that. Or maybe you didn't want to see that at all. But you did. If you're still there, you did. We got 102 viewers. I think I'm done. I really think I'm done. So if you've got questions for me, otherwise we're going to make this very short because... Oh, wait a minute. I've got a couple things on the screen here. I'm sorry. I do have two things. One is something I showed last week. This is that furnace. I don't think I've had anybody interested in that yet, and I didn't really expect much, but just in case, this is a high efficiency type wood furnace. It requires some plumbing and things like a boiler type deal. It's in very good shape, I believe, and normally they sell for quite a few $1,000s. I don't know how many, but I'm going to say $4,000 or $5,000 normally. But I would make somebody an incredibly good, unbelievable deal on this if somebody would like to just get it out of my way, because I'm not ever going to take time and use it. I just am not. I got too many other irons in the fire. I got it and cleaned it all up. It's up in really good shape. So if you're interested in something like that, send me an email, rosastringworks@gmail.com. And here's another little project I'm working on right at the moment as we speak. In fact, when I'm done here, I may run up there and start working on this. This is that secret project that I was using all those big beams for, and you can see pretty much now, because you watch my shop talks, you get the reward of knowing what it is. It, of course, is going to be a deer stand, and I call it a deer stand. It's really just more, for me, it's just a fun place to go and sit and watch. It's on a very high point on my farm. I can see over most of the farm. It's kind of like a lookout tower. In fact, that's what gave me the idea. I've always wanted to have a lookout tower on the farm, and I always wanted to put it right here. So this is kind of a mini lookout tower. It's only about 16, 17 feet tall to the platform, and that's what I'm actually going to be building today, is the platform. And then I'll put a house up on top of it. I'm going to make it a little insulated little cabin, and my grandkids, they love to come out and play and things like that, so it'll be just a neat place. And I now am officially done. So if you've got questions and you want to pose those to me, I'll be happy to try to answer anything. Yeah, just put a couple of question marks in front of your question, if you will, so I can find it easier. I don't see any questions posed at the moment. Let me read a couple comments. Says, all the animal heads creep me out. Well, what you really need to understand is those are not really heads. They are just a tan leather and draped over styrofoam for the most part. They're not really an animal, just so you understand. And anyway, they, I eat the meat that I shoot. Like I've mentioned many times, I don't eat any vegetables at all. Zero, none, not one. Not even a pickle, not a piece of lettuce, nothing. Not even a green bean. So, when you're a carnivore like I am, you hunt, and that's just one of the things I do. And whether you like that or not, I'm not going to judge you for sucking down carrots, or whatever you eat. So that's just the way it is. And I kind of put them on the wall like that as a tribute, because to me, it's not really so much a trophy for me. It's more like I like to remember the animal, and I like to remember where I was and how it came to be. Let's see. But he does go on to say it does look like an awesome man cave, and it really is. It's really quiet too. It's these thick log walls make it just crazy quiet in here. It's really neat. Show us the bow you built. All right, hang on just one.
Opal's got a little shop, coffee, tea, and soda pop, written on the faded window sign. Ruby and Pearl are her best friends. There you'll find the three of them, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30. You can set a watch by their routine. Classic small town Norman Rockwell scene. They talk about the wheres and whens, a little gossip now and then about who's doing what.
Okay, well here's one. Of course, it's unstrung at the moment. And I'm trying to remember, I believe I made this out of cherry. The riser is cherry, and then you can see my typical laminations, like I put in all my necks, and like on the guitar. So it's basically the same kind of thing. That's maple and walnut, I think, dark stripped through there. And the limbs are, believe it or not, you're not even going to believe it, but these limbs are sycamore limbs, and they're coated with a fiberglass. And the toughest part about doing this is laminating the fiberglass to the wood, and you have to find a way, because you can't just put a bunch of clamps on here and get all the air bubbles out. It won't work. You put that resin on there and you think, clamping it, you think there won't be any air bubbles. Well, guess again, there's going to be air bubbles. So how do you get it perfectly smooth like this and no air bubbles at all? Well, what I did was I made a mold, a two-piece mold. Basically it was a square, like a 2x12. So it's just and then it followed this shape. Now I cut out this shape and cut out the shape below. And basically I mashed those two together with air pressure. Well, really what I did was I held them at a certain distance. I set this in there in the gap. And then I had an inner tube on the top of this and an inner tube on the bottom of this. Basically, I aired them up, and then that mashed everything together. That's how I did it, and it worked great. I mean, it just really worked great. And this one's not real powerful. This one I think is only 35 pounds, something like that. But I love to shoot or hunt rabbits with a bow. And that's why I made this. It's just a quick little hunting bow. No sights, as you see, because I shoot it totally instinct. And the rabbit can be and I'm not making this up, I never, ever, ever shoot at a rabbit sitting. It's got to be running. If it's running, I'll shoot at it. And I'm not saying I hit every one that I'm shooting at, but I do pretty good. I've done it pretty much my whole life. And so anyway, there it is. I make my own bowstrings, everything. So, but it's a pretty neat little bow, and you can see here this is my own little design there, just kind of an offset there to keep the arrow from slapping across this. It just holds the arrow out just a little bit there, and I think all I did was put a piece of leather under there and mold this other leather around it. So anyway. So there you go. And I've built several bows like that. I think I built one for my son and 2 or 3 other ones. One of them was much more powerful, like in the 60-pound range. Okay, well, it looks like we do have a bunch of questions and things have scrolled a long way, so let me just try to back up and try to find the first question marks here. Show us some more of your interesting art items. Okay, I'll get one more. I don't have a lot, to be honest with you. I just never really took a lot of time to do a lot of art. I always enjoyed art. I really have. But I've got one more, I think, hanging on a wall here somewhere. I'll show you. I'll do that right after I answer this next question. Ron Melberg said, you talked about wood changing color over time. Will the Osage orange rose turn brown over time? Ron, I'd say it's possible. With the finish on it, it seems to be holding pretty well. Most of them I've seen have kept their color pretty well. So I can't say it won't, but it still will look like a rose, I think. So I'm not too concerned about it, but I would hope it would stay fairly close to the color it is. All right, well, watch this, and I'll get you one more piece of artwork, assuming I can find it.
Opal's got a little shop, coffee, tea, and soda pop, written on the faded window sign. Ruby and Pearl are her best friends. There you'll find the three of them, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30. You can set a watch by their routine. Classic small.
Okay, this next little piece of artwork, I did it at about roughly the same time I did the collage, so it was in my early college days. And it is, again, you can't see it because of the glare, because this has glass over it, unfortunately, so it's really hard to see. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's really hard to see, and I don't think there's much chance of it getting better. Well, there's a close look there. You can kind of see it there. And again, it's birds and nature. That's always been my favorite thing. Matter of fact, there's a date on it. Let me look and see what the date was. 1977. February 3rd, 1977. So it's been a long time ago. Did the other one have a date? No, I just had it signed. It doesn't have a date. But you can see there are just birds in a nest there. Some leaves and stuff. I'm sorry I for the glare. I didn't know that would happen. But anyway, thanks for asking. That's probably all the artwork I've got. I don't think I can think of anything else other than a few pieces of furniture I've built. Let's go to the next question. What do you prefer for Christmas dinner, ham or turkey? Yes, I agree. If there's both of those are out there, they're both on my plate. I honestly would have a tough time choosing. I like ham. I think I prefer turkey more than ham, but I like ham too. But honestly, my favorite is to put them both on the same sandwich with some cheese and make the cheese melted. I love that. Where did you learn how to paint, or maybe you didn't? How do I take that? Everything I do, everything in my life. I'm serious. I'm trying to think of anything. Did I ever take a lesson or learn anything? I mean, other than just what I learned in shop class in school, other than that, as far as I know, everything else I've just figured it out on my own. Pretty much. I'm really trying to think of anything else that I had a lesson or anything on, but pretty much I just figured it out. Could you sing out with a Hank Williams song or any song? You really are a glutton for punishment, aren't you? I know a Hank Williams song or two, but honestly, right? Oh, well, the one I know, I could easily sing the words, but the problem is I'm not sure I could chord it very well on the guitar here. I've got my mandolin up there, but I'm not even sure I could chord it on that, to be honest with that. That's that, I got a feeling called the blue. I'm off key. I got a feeling called the blue, babe. I gotta have to have the instrument. Sorry, but anyway, that song I could do, but the chording on that is just crazy hard. So, and I'm not practiced, so I would probably better not do a Hank Williams tune like that. But thanks for asking anyway. Why do D28s always seem to have neck reset? Is it a design issue? Well, see, I don't feel that way, Tim. Maybe you've had a different experience. People have many times have said to me, "Why are you so opposed to neck resets?" And I'm not. I'm just opposed to doing them when they don't need it. And I would say, this is just me talking, so please just take it for what it's worth. But I would say probably 51% of the neck resets that are done in this country don't need to be done. That's, more than half, I would say, don't need to be done at all. Because what they're really trying to do is reset the neck to fix a different problem. And what you need to do is you fix the other problem, and then the neck don't need to be reset at all. I mean, like, for instance, and I don't know how to say this without sounding smug, but Martin's been at this for, 200 years now? Something like that? They pretty much know how to get the neck angle right, and they pretty much got it down, So what makes you think that neck's going to change inside that little box? It doesn't change. What changes is the flimsy stuff around it, like the bridge getting pulled up, the bridge plate getting pulled up, the braces breaking on the inside, or somebody dropping it like I just did and breaking, like I did on this one and breaking it here, and that's pretty common. And people still reset the necks on things like that. You need to fix the problem. That's what I say. So I don't see that D28s have a real neck reset issue. In fact, I don't think they have that at all. I've had a bazillion D28s in the shop, and I've probably reset the neck on one or less. I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion, and I'm going to stick to it. But that doesn't mean that's your experience. You may have had a different experience. Let's see. What if I glued deer antler saddles on the rosewood bridge saddle? Would it work? Well, if you're talking about topping a saddle with deer antler, yes, it does work, and I've done it. I've done it actually on an upright base. Somebody wanted me to do it, and I did it, and it sounded great. So you can glue it on there, and it should work just fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do. Like I said, I did it on an upright base, and I'm trying to think if I ever did it on anything else. It seemed like I might have did that once on a banjo, and it was a little harsh on a banjo, I think. When I'm making a neck, what thickness do I start with prior to shaping? I don't think I can even answer that one. Honestly, I just have patterns, and I just trace them to my pattern and start carving from there, I don't really have an answer for that, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I have some measurements that I've taken off of, like, say, a Lloyd Loar mandolin, and off of, like, a D28 Martin, and things like that. And I kind of mimic those measurements, as I'm carving it. But I can't really honestly say anything more than that, other than I just kind of use my patterns and trace around my patterns for the thicknesses. So somebody by the username 1 at Rosa Stringworks, just an FYI, they offer a great 400 grit at Home Depot from Norton, Pro Sand, no buildup, etc. Okay, I'll look into that. Thank you. Norton usually makes pretty good stuff, so I would imagine it would be good. UK Lemons. Question. Hi, Jerry. Really enjoy watching your channel. Do you have a decent audio system at home, and who do you recommend as your favorite musicians to listen to? Well, I do have a reasonably okay audio system here, but I'm not one of those folks that you would call an audiophile. Not even really close to that. I read reviews and I buy what seems to be highly thought of. For instance, my receiver here that's sitting right off camera, you can't see, is a Denon. Trying to see if there's a model number on it. DENON. I can't see anything more than that. Oh yeah, here it is. AVR S750H. AVR-S750H. That's my receiver for pretty much playing everything here in my man cave. That would be my television and my old digital recording station here that I have, the Roland recording station. So everything kind of plugs into that and plays off of it. And it can handle, I think, 2 woofers, subwoofers, and it can handle 6 surround sound speakers, I think it is. Yeah, that's right, 6 of them. So it's a 6.2, I think is what they call that. Anyway, I don't hardly recommend much, on that kind of thing, and I don't think I should be the guy to make those recommendations because I don't know that much about it to be truthful. And then favorite musicians. Well, I'm glad you asked on that one because there's several. Now you got to understand, I'm talking about bluegrass and old time country and things like that. The best female vocalist in the world, and I don't care what genre you're talking about, is Alison Krauss. I mean, I'm not lying to you. That's the best female vocalist in the whole free world. I put a link to one of her videos in the last Shop Talk, I believe. And if it wasn't the last one, it was the one before. I think it was the last Shop Talk. So if you want to check her out, check out that link especially. It is a wonderful recording. Now, I'll tell you, the video on it was done like 8 years ago, and the video quality itself is pixelated a little bit, but the sound quality is really good. So I would highly recommend you click on that link and watch that. So in my opinion, she's the best female singer in the whole world, period. I don't care who you're talking about. And then as far as some other musicians to listen to in bluegrass, well, probably my next favorite overall is Sierra Hull, and she's really good singer, but she's the best mandolin player on the planet. I mean, just the best. Not only that, but she's really good on guitar too. So you should really check her out, Sierra Hull, if you don't know who that is. Spelled pretty much just like it sounds, and the last name Hull is Hull, Sierra Hull. Those would be probably my 2 favorite female artists. And by the way, Alison Krauss is also as good as anybody on a fiddle, but nobody cares because she sings so good. Nobody even cares she can play a fiddle she's a national champion type fiddle player. I mean, she's that good. And nobody even cares because she sings like an angel. And then, some of my other favorite male people. Now, the one that just passed away recently was Tony Rice. Oh, my gosh. He's like the best male vocalist ever, and he is killer on a guitar. Everybody in bluegrass for the last 30, 40 years has tried to copy Tony Rice. I mean, he's that good. He's so incredibly good. If you don't know about him, you need to check him out. You seriously need to check him out. You will not be sad if you do. I turned Caleb onto him, and I hear Caleb all the time playing Tony Rice tunes in the background now because he's that good. He's really, really good. And I don't know, another mandolin player that I like real well is Adam Steffy. He actually started out with Allison Krauss and Union Station. I say started out. That's not really where he started, but he got fairly prominent with Allison Krauss and Union Station when they started out. And then he stayed with them a few years, and then he went off on his own thing, and he was with the Isaacs and some different people. In fact, I think he's married to one of the Isaacs. And he's had a band or two of his own, but I like Adam Steffy really well too. And of course, Sam Bush on mandolin. And Sam is just such a nice guy. He's just awesome. He really is. But those are just some names. I would check those out. And, if you don't know about Sierra Hull, you're missing out there. If you don't know about Tony Rice, you are definitely missing out there. Let's see. Bob L. says, any song will do. Well, Bob, you really are pushing the envelope here. Oh, let's try something. I shouldn't without any practice. And I'm not a guitar player, so that's the worst part of it. My friends call me Two Gun, and I answer when they call. My friends call me Two Gun, and I answer when they call. Got one in my boot tops and one in my overall. Yodelay-o, yodelay-o. Give me water when I'm thirsty, or a bottle when I'm dry. Water when I'm thirsty, or a bottle when I'm dry. And play me sad music when I want to cry. Yodelay-o-delay-o-delay. Well, I've rode some freight trains, I've rode some aeroplanes. Yeah, I rode some freight trains and rode some aeroplanes. I don't care how I travel, 'cause I get there just the same. Now I got a good line and it works every time. Yeah, I got a good line and it works every time. Now when I start to use it, the women all stand in line. Had that problem my whole life. I can't even sing without laughing on that one. Oh my goodness. I lost it, sorry. Well, anyway, there you go. I did something, and I messed it up. I just cracked myself up. That's why I couldn't be a stand-up comedian. I'd be up there laughing at my own jokes. Let's see here. Moving on down to the next question marks. The ones without question marks, I'm kind of just skipping past because I can't read that fast. Let's see. I'm sure you never would sell, but if you were to sell the first mandolin you ever built based on quality alone, what price would you put on it and why? Well, my very first mandolin, it's good and bad. Workmanship-wise, I would just say average. It's not exceptional. It's kind of average. It's not bad. It's just kind of average. Sound-wise, it's really good. I actually built it out of Western cedar on my first one instead of redwood. At the time, I didn't really think about redwood. I thought Western cedar was the closest to spruce, and it was obtainable by buying quarter-sawn pieces, again, at a hardware store, versus spending the big bucks for the, for the stuff especially on my first mandolin, because I didn't even know if I could get one built or not, the very first time I built one. So anyway, I made it out of western cedar on the top. I made it out of bird's eye maple on the back. I gave it to my son because I finished it, believe it or not, on my son's first birthday. So he was 1 year old the day I finished it and played it. So I played it on his birthday, so it's his mandolin, JR's mandolin. And it's got a killer sound, really. It's a really good sounding mandolin. And price-wise, I mean, because it doesn't look the best, I'd probably have to knock the price down some. Sound-wise, I would want to get my full price, $6,500 easy, if not more. Looks-wise, $2,500, So it's not a bad mandolin. It's just not that, the first one you build just doesn't look as good as the rest of them, My second mandolin I built it with a Redwood top. It was even louder, and everybody says that's the mandolin I should play all the time. I mean, everybody that hears it goes, wow, you should be playing that all the time, because it really does have a great sound. And again, it's a Redwood top. So there you go. I hope that answers your question. And no, I couldn't sell it because I gave it to my son. Dixie's Guitars, well worth a peek. Yeah, I think I have checked her out a couple of times. Thank you, Lloyd. I believe I know who you're talking about, but I'll look at it again. I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about. Yeah, and she does some nice work. How many violins have you made over your career, and is the process as enjoyable as building a guitar mandolin? Yeah, I like to build violins. I'd like it more if I could play one reasonably well. Yeah, and I thought that was really the main reason why I built the first one, because I thought, well, that'll motivate me to learn to play it, and I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried, and I don't know, it just doesn't come to me. That bow thing is just really hard. I just can't get the bow thing down. But yeah, I like building them, and I do think they're enjoyable. How many have I built? I can't keep track in my head, but I'd say 6, roughly, something like that. The last one I built was for a commissioned build of a girl. Her father paid for it, but this girl came to the shop and pretty much carte blanche. She didn't care what it cost, pretty much. I was fair with her. I gave her a fair price. But anyway, when I got down to the finish on it, I said, now how would you like me to finish it? I can do it this way or I can do it that way, and da-da-da-da-da. Well, I want it purple. I said, a $2,500 violin. Now, keep in mind, this was almost 20 years ago. And you want it purple? And she goes, yep, it's got to be purple. I said, now you do realize that you're taking a really nice violin. And by the way, this thing sounded like, I mean, I hate to brag on my own stuff, but it sounded like $1 million. It was a fine sounding violin, really super fine. She wanted it purple. And you know how young teenage girls are. You can't change their mind for nothing. I said, you're going to take a $2,500 violin and turn it into a $100 garage sale item. I don't care. I want it purple. Okay, fine. It was purple. Customer's always right, even when they're wrong. That's the thing you should learn right up front. Okay. Let's see. Any recommendations for learning about finishes, I guess? Yeah, no, I'm the wrong guy to ask on that. Sorry. I've always done everything myself, and I just try and try and try. Now, it doesn't mean I don't look at videos and things, but I'm just not the guy to ask about finishes. Sorry. I would tell you if I was, but I just am not. And I'm not going to blow smoke when I don't know. I'm not the best at it. I get a pretty decent finish on my instruments, but I work my tail off to get it. So there's probably an easier way. Denon is very good and has been for a long time. Well, thank you. Yeah, I read a lot of reviews on them and stuff. I'm not saying they're the best, but I it just looked like that particular one was pretty good and would fit my needs, and that's why I bought it. When the heel of the neck comes unglued, how can you clamp it for regluing? Well, Jim, I would say the main thing about when the heel is loose is, you really, I'm kind of on the fence about this. You can try the easy way and just feeding glue back in there, and sometimes with a syringe, or sometimes blow it back in there with air or whatever. And but the clamping part would be, I like that band clamp that you might have saw me in one of my videos recently. I put it all the way around there, and then it's got a screw tightener, so it's a band that goes all the way around. What it's actually made for is for picture frames. But it's a flexible, just like a nylon cloth band that goes all the way around. It has plastic corners for picture frames. I just take the plastic corners off and just use the nylon band, and then I you close it in a little latch thing, and then you just turn the screw, and it just keeps tightening up. Well, then you can tighten that up right around the neck heel all the way around the guitar, and that pulls that heel in tight. And it works really good for that. In fact, I put the clamp part right on the heel, and I put some leather under it. And so I'm screwing down right on the neck heel when I screw the screw down. That's probably my favorite way to do it now. There's other ways you can do it, of course, with bar clamps and things too, but I really think that's one of the best ways to do it. And they're not expensive clamps. You can get them fairly reasonable. I don't know the name of it, or I'd tell you. I can almost see it in my head what the name of it is, but I can't call it up. Let's see, the next question. How long a life do you get out of strings? Do you have any advice? Well, that's a real good question, Gordon. I'm glad you asked that. You could ask this to 100 people, and I'm almost positive, especially 100 really good musicians. Now, I'm not counting myself in that, by the way. I'm just saying if you ask 100 really good musicians, you'd probably get 100 different answers. And that's the truth. It's based a lot on opinion and the kind of strings and how you hear your music, etc., and so forth. Here's just my take on it. Guitars need string changes a lot more often, depending on how often you play them, especially, and depending on what kind of string they are, etc. They need it a lot more often than mandolins do, in my opinion. Mandolins are the one instrument that almost sounds better with older strings, in my opinion. Now, I've reached the wall on my mandolin strings now. I need to change them. In fact, I'm going to before our Christmas show this coming Thursday, by the way. Our Christmas show will be this coming Thursday evening, 7 p.m., my time here, of course. And so before I do that Christmas show, I'm definitely going to put new strings on my mandolin. And the reason when I change them, it's maybe they sound dull, but I'm usually having more trouble keeping them in tune at some point. And the fact that they're sounding a little flat, and the fact that I'm having trouble keeping them in tune, it's time to change them. And it's been quite a while. I typically don't change the mandolin strings that often. Now, depends on the kind of strings you're talking about. Phosphor bronze strings are my preference. I know a lot of folks just swear by the coated strings, but you have to understand where I'm coming from here. I'm not saying I have a better ear than anybody else. In fact, I know I don't. My brother, for one, has got a way better ear than me. I know that for sure. But I do have a pretty good ear about these kinds of things because I do it all the time. And when I put coated strings on, I definitely hear the tone drop. It flattens it out, which on some instruments that's a good thing. Like on a mandolin, for instance, if you put coated strings on it, it would probably sound good. Now, I have never done it. The reason I don't use coated strings are twofold. Number one, I'm hard on strings, and I peel that coating off pretty fast, and it just looks real fuzzy and ugly in no time at all. Second of all, I hear the tone drop and it gets flattened out. Especially on a guitar, when I hear that, I'm not a fan of that. I like the brassier, brighter sound on a guitar, especially if you've got a good woody sounding guitar. It's a great blend. So that for me is my take on it. And I do recommend phosphor bronze strings more than any other kind of string as a general rule. Now, there are some people, just like some people cannot wear gold or some people cannot wear silver or whatever because their skin reacts to it or whatever. It's the same way with your strings. I can play, there's two kinds of strings I can play and play them a long time. Now, I'm sure I could play the coated strings a long time too, but like I tell you, I tear them up really badly. I really do. I don't know why I do, but I do. And anyway, I don't play the coated strings, but that would be a third kind I could play a long time. But I can play phosphor bronze pretty long, and I can play nickel pretty long. Now, nickel, depends on the instrument, can sound pretty good. If you put them on a mandolin, sometimes nickel strings actually sound pretty darn good, depending on the mandolin. But it really does depend a lot on the mandolin. If you've got a thin sounding mandolin, the nickel strings are not going to be your friend. If you got a really good woody sounding mandolin, then the nickel strings sound pretty good sometimes. So you might try those as just an alternative. But phosphor bronze, that pretty much works on everything. And for the most part, I would say they're one of the least reactive strings to most people's body chemistry. That's my take on it. Ask me what time it is, I tell you how to build a watch. There you go. Your actual question was how long a life? Mandolins, man, I might not change them for 6 months. I'm not kidding you. I really don't like to change them very often. And like I said, the phosphor bronze seems to last a very long time for me. I don't seem to react to the phosphor bronze. The nickel I would change more often, but even those I could play pretty long. On a guitar though, if I played a guitar as much as I play the mandolin, I'd probably be changing strings once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. If I was really a guitar player and played a lot. So I hope that helps you. I don't know. It just depends on a lot of things. There's no black and white one answer. And like I said, if you ask 100 musicians that are top quality musicians, you'll get 100 answers. Mark Landers, he's got a question here, but he didn't have a question mark in front, but I noticed it. It said, what can I do on my guitar or to my guitar to make the Christmas songs easier to play? Bingo! Yeah. The Christmas songs are hard, notoriously hard to play. It depends on the song, of course. Some of them are as easy as any other kind of song, but a lot of them are crazy hard and lots of chords and just, yeah, whatever. They're tough. I agree with you. Let's see, let me move down here. What time is it, by the way? We've just got a couple more minutes left. Do I know anyone that wants to sell one of my mandolins? I did at one time. I don't know if he still wants to sell it or not. I told him I would auction it off for him, I'm trying to think of his name. He's an older fellow. He lives out in, I think, St. Clair, Missouri. Don Pipes, I think is his name, in St. Clair, Missouri. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's his name, Don Pipes. So if you look him up, maybe you can find him on the internet, ask him, he might sell it. Yeah, somebody's offering a suggestion on keeping your strings longer. Clean your hands and wipe them down after you're done. That's not bad advice at all. That's good advice. Sierra Hull played with Alison Krauss on stage when she was a little kid, and Sierra killed it. Oh yeah, Sierra played with lots of stars. She played with Ricky Skaggs a lot. Yeah, Sierra is killer mandolin player, just killer. I mean, she's a crazy good singer too. I mean, she's really good singer, but she is a killer mandolin player. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I can't think of anybody that can keep up with her on a mandolin. And there's zillions of great mandolin players out there. But as far as I'm concerned, she's as good as any of them and probably the best. She's really good. And she makes it look so doggone easy. And that's the way Tony Rice is. When you see Tony Rice playing that guitar, he's putting a bazillion licks in there, and they're clean and clear and crisp, and he's not rushed, and he just kind of stands there like this. It doesn't hardly look like he's moving at all. It's just amazing. You really need to watch that and pay attention to Tony when you hear him play, if you haven't done that already. Yeah, all right, we'll just take 2 more questions. We'll just make it arbitrary, and we'll call this a shop talk here. Ron Melberg, I had a dent on my guitar. A buddy suggested clear nail polish as a filler. It worked in one application. The dent disappeared. Think it would be a good grain filler. Well, I don't know about the grain filler because I think it's really hard, and it might be really hard to sand off. I don't know. You might have something there, Ron. I've done the exact same thing. I've used clear nail polish before to fill dents and things. I can't remember why I kind of got away from that. Probably because CA glue came out and worked so well. Yeah, I definitely have used it. So, oh, well, thanks, Jerry. You've got a great voice. Well, Bob, I'm really sorry to hear about your hearing loss. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. How do I make my guitar easier to play? Oh, well, I already did that one. Is Caleb on the home stretch at RSW? Yes, he is. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked that. I asked Caleb to sit in with us, by the way, on our live Christmas show this coming Thursday evening. And I don't know if he will. Actually, I asked him to come in and do at least one song, And we're going to have kind of like a halftime on the Christmas program. My little band there is going to play the first half. Then there's going to be kind of not an intermission, but just kind of a break there. And then we're going to have a couple of guests come in and play a couple of tunes. And then my band's going to play again. And then we're going to have one more guest at the end. So it's going to be a long program probably. It's probably easily going to go well over an hour. But anyway, I think you'll enjoy it. It's going to be good, I hope. But to continue on with Caleb, he's given me notice that he will be gone on the 17th, I think. His dad's actually going to be here on the 17th with his truck to pick up his belongings. Caleb's been staying in the apartment next door that's on the end of this house. There's a drive-through. We drive, the roof covers the driveway, basically, and you drive through the roof, under the roof, and the apartment's on the right side there. So it's not really attached. It's attached to the house, but it's unattached. You can't walk from this to his apartment without going outside, is what I'm saying. And so he's in that little apartment there. It's just an efficiency apartment that I built. And but he is going to be gone on the 17th of December. So he's not long for the RSW world. And I just want everybody to understand we're parting on perfect terms. He's a great guy. As I mentioned before, if there was a lineup of 1,000 people applying for my job, and knowing what I know now, I'd still pick him. He's that good. He's a good kid. I got nothing bad to say about him. He's just a good kid. Let's see. Let's just do one last question. Just one more. I'm not sure I understand this question, so I'm probably not going to answer this one, but Rainblaze asks, how do you stop a bridge from slipping down? I don't know what that means exactly. I'm probably just drawing a blank here. It's probably obvious to everybody but me. I want to build a guitar. Do you suggest StewMac kit guitars? Well, Staley, there, I don't necessarily recommend them because I can't tell you for sure they're great kits. But what I have seen from their kits has been fine. I haven't seen any problems. So I would suggest that a kit is a good way to start, and StewMac makes them readily available, so there you go. But I can't honestly I don't want to say definitely they're a great kit recommend them. I'm just kind of being neutral on the point. I don't know of anything negative about them, so I would say it's probably a good place to start. Martin kind of has, I don't know if I'd call it a kit deal, but when you're at their factory, that Bill Pilliard built a guitar in my shop, and he took a factory tour there and picked out, basically all the pre-made parts, and he came here and assembled the guitar, and I showed him how to carve the braces, etc., and so forth. So I don't know if you could, if you're in that area, or if you could even get a hold of them and maybe they work up a kit for you too. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud on that, so don't quote me that it's definitely available. But he did come back with from his factory tour, he did come back with all the parts he needed to build a guitar. Okay, and his guitar turned out great, and he plays it all the time in the jams around here, and it really sounds good. It really does. He had a Gallagher, which I thought was a very good sounding guitar, and he never really ever plays the Gallagher anymore. He plays the one that he built in my shop, and I helped him quite a bit with it, of course. All right. I wish I could answer the question about the slipping down. I just don't understand it. Sorry to see Caleb go. Yeah, I wish him the best. Yeah, Caleb's a good guy. We are parting on the best of terms. And I'll be honest, I've already talked to him about the possibility of maybe coming back for like some little special type project down the road. You'll probably see him again down the road. And, I wish him the best. I've got, like I said, nothing bad to say about Caleb at all. He's been very helpful with me. He's been really helpful on the laser cutter and the computer stuff. I'm for an old fogey like me, I'm pretty darn good with the computer stuff, but he's a little bit better. So it's even, is very helpful. Well, that's going to be it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the shop talk today. Looks like we have 198 viewers at the moment. Man, that's pretty consistent, right around 200 each time, so it's not bad. I really do thank you for tuning in. We'll see you same time, same place next Friday morning. Thank you very much.